The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party.
Thank you. I too, Mr. Speaker, wish to pursue this matter from yesterday's discussion. Mr. Speaker, accepting responsibility is a key component of governing and of leading, but yesterday, when I asked the Premier about his and his government's relationship to the sorrow which began at Northwood a year ago tomorrow, there was no acceptance of any responsibility in his answers. But there is, Mr. Speaker, a responsibility. The Premier voted for the budgets that cut funding to long-term care and cut Northwood's funding more than any other home in Nova Scotia. His name was called. He recorded his vote, and the result is written down. Will the Premier today take responsibility on behalf of his government for this government's role in what took place at Northwood?
The Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, lessons were learned, Mr. Speaker. We always followed the advice of the Public Health Agency of Canada, Mr. Speaker, and in terms of when it was very clear that asymptomatic spread was an issue. Actually, even before that official release came out about that issue, we began masking at Northwood. But of course, there are lessons learned. We can't go back in time, but what we can do is ensure that the required investments are made. The capital was approved months ago to ensure that that facility became more modernized. In this budget, we have more money for workplace safety, for staffing. We're going to continue to make sure we're following those recommendations and look forward to make sure that we're making those changes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party.
Mr. Speaker, we are not talking about going back in time. We are talking about the maturity that leads to taking responsibility for one's decisions. The percentage of the people in Nova Scotia who get to sit at the cabinet table and make the decisions the government makes about which infrastructure proposals are going to go forward and which are not is very small. But the Premier was one of those people when Northwood's 2017, 18 and 19 applications for capital expansions were each in turn denied, with the result that Northwood was consigned to remaining in a shared occupancy model. Does the Premier really think it's enough for him to say, as he did here yesterday, that his focus is elsewhere than on the impact of these decisions?
The Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the focus has been on safety of long-term care and continues to be. That's why we need to make investments, especially with COVID-19, ensuring that the right protective equipment is there for staff. There was no official advice from public health where our asymptomatic spread could happen, but we made sure that we acted swiftly. Masks were in place by April 6th. In the facility at Northwood, but we need to make sure that we are responding to the issues in long-term care and in health care across the province. That's why we made the investments. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party.
Mr. Speaker, what I'm talking about is the Premier's and the government's responsibility. So year after year, the Premier and the government voted for budgets that contained freezes on new long-term care construction, leaving people in shared accommodations in Northwood and in other facilities as what author Andre Picard has called sitting ducks for pathogens. So okay, no responsibility, but does the Premier not even have a sense of regret about the role of his government's decisions in what took place at Northwood?
The Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And it is a travesty what's happened in our long-term care centres in Canada, Mr. Speaker. Canada ranks very low across the globe for wealthy nations, and Nova Scotia is part of that sad story. That's why we need to make sure that we are making the changes required that are in the reports. We had independent investigators to go to that very facility. We're taking this matter very seriously. Again, condolences go out to the families that are impacted. All Nova Scotians were touched by what happened at that centre, and my hearts are with all those that are impacted by COVID-19. But I do think at the same time that we need to thank those that are working on the front line to ensure that this type of thing doesn't happen again, and government needs to make sure that the resources required are given to them.